Linux OTC. Welcome to episode 20. We're your hosts. I'm Bill.
I'm Eric.
I'm Majid.
And I'm Leo.
Oh, thank God for truncate silence.
I know, right?
Well, I was
Nobody
wondering
will
whether we were
even
doing
know.
the whole alpha. I wonder if we were doing alphabetized again, or if we were just going to do.
Well, Leo's got to be
Leo's,
last.
I'm not doing it.
So
Yeah.
let's just
not
make
doing
make it alphabetical except for Leo. So we'll have to put a Z in front of Leo's name or
Yeah.
something.
That's right.
A
What
Z,
is
you
a
mean?
Z at the end of it? So it'll work.
Hey, yeah, just start spelling it backwards.
Yeah. So start with the letter at the end. That's how we alphabetize.
Yeah.
Episode
Fine,
20. Like that's like a whole new thing. It's like a whole new number
Yeah, we
What
got to
the-
celebrate.
Flipped over.
What as opposed to 19? It's just like
as
one
opposed to
more.
19. I don't know.
Yeah, but you take the tens place and you incremented it by one. I learned that one in first grade.
Yeah.
Was that in between your arcade games or music things or?
Yeah, about in between. In between.
Jumped into the speaking of arcade, which one of you was saying you got one of those Facebook face masks?
Oh yeah, so it's Black Friday. You know, this ultimately
He has to
irrelevant
justify
holiday
the
in the
Facebook
UK.
stuff.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
right.
no, it's an irrelevant holiday in the UK because we don't even do Thanksgiving, but for some reason we do Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
Well, Black
and all
Friday
that
has nothing to do with turkeys, so you're
Well,
okay.
I know, yeah. Anyway, whatever. So, what always happens this year at this time of year is like I say, I'm not going to spend lots of money. I'm not going to spend lots of money. I haven't got lots of money. I'm not going to spend lots of money. What do? I spend lots of money. It's already started. It started by I saw a Meta Quest 2 because the Meta Quest 3 has come out, and so I think they're trying to get rid of the old stock. So I managed to get one off Amazon for. It comes out to £200 actually in the end because they're giving me a gift card as well, so it comes out to about £200. So
Not
yeah,
bad.
I'm going to be getting that tomorrow. Let's see. The one good thing about Black Friday time on Amazon is that the return period normally increases to 4 months rather than 1 month. So I have on occasion bought stuff, played around with it for 3 months, then realized there's no point keeping it, and then returned it. It's like, well, I pay the money, so
Now,
why
once
not?
you get Beat Saber, you'll be fine. You'll be okay.
Okay. So that's why, yeah. I think I might have played Beat Saber in an arcade, actually.
It's the only good game on MetaQuest.
Is that the one you keep seeing on TikTok where the stuff keeps flying at the person and they're whacking at it with the lightsaber and music
Yeah.
is playing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
And if
cool
you
to
get
look
it,
at.
if you get it with the cool VR headsets like the ones that hook up to Steam, you can even put your own music and your own like stuff on it. It's really cool.
It
I
looks
don't have
cool.
that one.
I can't.
I mean, the reason I thought about getting it was because I was speaking to one of my junior doctors the other day, and she was telling me about this like VR. There's like a VR bar in the city, you know, where you kind of organize parties and you all go and you get, have some to drink and then put on VR headsets and stuff like that. And I looked into that and it looked quite good, but it was a bit on the expensive side. And I thought, why not just have my own?
Yeah,
Rather
I can
than
get
having-
sloshed at home just fine.
Yeah, well, let's see how it is. I do think VR is a fad, and I think that it's clearly not going to be the future.
Uh-oh, you
but-
got Eric.
I
on
don't
this one.
know. I don't know. I think it's the type of thing where it's going to mature as a technology, and as the hardware gets easier and easier to use and less expensive, and the applications for it like become more. If gaming is the only excuse, then I think probably it's not going to have as mainstream an appeal. I think
Said
if you can
every
s-
crypto bro ever.
Yeah.
well,
I mean, the last time I had a VR headset was the original PS VR, which I got in 2017, I think, and it was such a faff to get it set up and get the cameras and this, that, and the other. I only used it,
Yeah.
I think, twice. It was nice, but I literally only used it twice, and then after that, I was like, I'm just gonna get rid of this. There's no
Yeah,
point.
this
It's
is
just
not-
sat there doing nothing.
The
I bought a
MetaQuest is
used-
not like that.
You see, and that's the thing. I think this newer hardware is probably. I bought a used phone, and it came with an Oculus, like one of the early Oculus, where you actually put the phone in it.
Oh, the cardboard.
Oh yeah.
Google cardboard.
It wasn't cardboard, but it was actually
Yeah.
like and you could adjust it, and like it wasn't garbage, but because the screen just wasn't crisp enough, that sort of you couldn't get yourself to forget that you were staring at a phone that close to your face.
Yeah. It wasn't
You know
garbage.
what?
It was garbage adjacent.
You know
Well,
what?
It was enough to. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I've just realized I could probably, write this off as a business expense. Because, bear with me
This
here.
is how you spend too much money.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then you
I
forget
know.
to write it off at the end of the year.
Yeah,
Let's
probably.
rationalize this. What can we do? Yeah.
When
Yeah,
you
no,
talk
I-
yourself into it, you can't.
Right.
Because
Anyway.
there was a presentation I saw at one of the anesthetist meetings where they were showing VR headsets to help calm children down prior to their operation, and it had the same effect, calming, especially children who've got like issues with like learning difficulties and disabilities and whatever, the same as giving them a drug. It was about that level of sedation that they
So
were
this is
getting
the
with it.
beginning of the Matrix. They're getting you calm in the VR, and then they're
Yeah.
just going to use you as a battery, man. So this is the AI is also coming up at this time, and who in the Matrix is the
Yeah.
machines.
Listen,
Well, have you seen that other AI pin thing? This humane AI pin. Has anybody else seen it? Oh, I've seen it over on the internet. It's like a Star Trek communicator type thing. You
Over
put
on
it in
the
here.
internet,
Yeah. As in, it was like it was reviewed by, The Verge.
internet.
Yeah.
the internet reviewed it and put it on the internet.
Yeah. Anyway, has anybody else seen it?
I have
It's,
not.
all right. No, it's like this kind of Star Trek communicator style thing. It's always
Sold.
listening, apparently.
Oh, it's like
and-
the Star Trek
the pin.
thingy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then, whenever you get like a notification or something, you just put your hand out and it fires a laser onto it, and then you can see your notifications or whatever. It runs Android.
The
Apparently.
money is already gone.
Yeah, speaking
£700.
of firing,
Oh,
speaking of
never
firing
mind.
lasers, wasn't there this huge party of crypto something or other, and all the people got like eye damage and sunburns because they were using those disinfectant UV lights because they
Yep.
looked cool and didn't
Yes.
actually know what they did. That sounds kind of like that. Like my hand has burn marks on it, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put it into the chat so you guys can see what I'm on about.
All right, let's see this.
At some point.
I don't know if you guys have heard of Big Clive. He does YouTube videos and a lot of like electrical engineering kind of stuff. But he had a whole video on that where it was like people buy these UV lamps thinking that they're just like, like you can use it to spot stains and like all these different things you can do with it. But they're getting
What kind
the
of
ones,
stains, Eric?
cat pee stains, really.
Oh, cat pee. Got it.
To be honest. But people were buying them not realizing like, yeah, these are dangerous. Like they will hurt you. And you go on eBay and it's just junk from China that they
Well,
don't really
yeah,
tell you.
It's
Yeah.
like real UV, man. I mean, it's like a tiny sun you're holding, and when you stare into it, it's not good. It's not good
No.
for you.
No. And it doesn't take long to do that damage too. It's
Nope.
No, it
pretty
doesn't.
pretty powerful.
So I'm looking at this little computer thing, and this looks like a cheater's dream on a test.
Yeah. Yes,
you'll
it does.
you'll be taking a test, and it's A, B, or C. Oh, sweet. Yeah, got it. All right, okay, that's the one. So how do you
Aesthetically, it could use a little work, because it looks. I don't know.
Bill, a man of your hairstyle should not be talking about aesthetics, really.
Nonsense, I tell you. I got people saying that I'm bald here and there,
didn't-
so
I
I
didn't
have
say you were
to-
bald, but I'm just saying.
No, but there are people saying that. No, I was just going to say this thing. I mean, it looks like somebody ought to put a sticker on it saying, "Hello, my name is Bill," and then you might be able to get away with stuff.
You remember those little tiny Raspberry Pi Pico ones that had little marquees across them, and it would say,
Yeah.
like, "Hi, my name is whatever." Man, that was.
Did
I
they?
remember when
I
that
remember
was
that.
that was peak Raspberry Pi right there. That was like when the fervor was hitting.
It
It's
was one of
pitch.
the things you could do with it because it was. You had to have a battery going to it. And,
Yeah, you did.
And the little, I don't know, you can order these little LCD screens, and just kind of plug it into as a hat. And I don't know, did they have like a enclosure to kind of put it all together in one piece? You
Not
can
really.
find that.
Not really. It was just kind of behind something, so yeah, you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
There's an e-ink one right now, which is kind of cool. But yeah, all the stuff is exposed, and it's a full-sized. Well, they do it with a full-sized Pi and a Pico, or is that a Pico? The smaller one, Zero. That's
It's
the
a
one.
0. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need
That's
to
an
buy.
interesting
I need to
little
buy
device.
another Raspberry Pi.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Well, there you go.
Because I've decided. See, it's Black Friday. That's what it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But can you get the 5 on Black Friday? Is there any kind of
well,
discount?
No
That's a
way.
good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
No, because
I doubt it.
I was speaking to someone, one of my colleagues at work, and we were kind of talking about retro games. About not retro games, games from our childhood. I'm not going to call them retro. So
Well, they're absolutely retro.
Why does that make you feel old?
yes, it does indeed. It does very much indeed. Right?
Retro
And
as hell.
put it this way, my son saw something about Street Fighter 4 and he's like, "Oh, that's so nostalgic." And I'm like, "Street Fighter 4 is nostalgic."
Yeah, I grew up with 2.
Exactly.
Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Exactly.
That was my jam.
Oh, did anybody else see that the band that does the whole Street Fighter
Yeah.
Oh man, that was sorcery, man. I loved that. I love
Yeah.
watching that. I'll never get
Remember the
bored of
movie?
that. Oh,
yeah.
god, yeah.
There was a
It
movie.
wasn't as
Jean-Claude
bad
Van
as
Damme.
people say. It was not as bad as people say.
The
it
only
is.
thing
It
was
had
that
Jean
it was
Claude Van Damme in it. Of course, it
Yeah.
was good.
Exactly.
and it had Kylie Minogue being Cammy. I mean,
Yes.
what more do you want? What more do you want?
You know, it's fun. I tend to love those video game movies. I know they get terrible reviews, but they are campy. But of course, it's live action of
course
a
it's
video
campy.
game. There's no
Yeah.
real story to the video game in the first place. I mean, or at least it is. It's like very sort of thin,
Yeah.
and then they're trying to like fill in all of this world building stuff. And like,
I mean, there was a Mortal Kombat movie, another one, I think about 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And the thing that I found most amazing about that is that in this country anyway, it only had a 15 rating, not an 18, which would be the equivalent to your R rating over there.
Oh, okay.
And the
Yeah.
amount of gore in it. And I was thinking to myself, kids nowadays, flipping heck, we saw 1% of this, it got banned in the 90s, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
And you couldn't, anyway, it wasn't that bad a film, actually.
I think you
Kids
have to
these
adjust.
days?
Yeah, you got to adjust your expectations of a movie. A movie like that is just to have fun and watch something silly.
Oh,
maybe,
yeah.
But people are expecting things. I don't know what they're expecting movies to be. These magnificent pieces of performative art, and it almost never is. People are wanting a little too much, I think.
it's entertainment, you
Yeah.
know, and it's as simple as that. And if your expectation is that it's just frivolous and silly and, over the top, and that's probably what you're going to get. So
Yeah,
And I would
you
argue
gotta
we
leave your
don't-
brain at the door type of thing.
Exactly. But I would
It's like
argue that
horror.
we don't have enough frivolous nonsense to watch, honestly.
well, comedy
Have
has
we
died,
not? Have you not seen
which is a shame.
YouTube?
I mean, I feel like comedy films used to be sort of that was the release, right? You could just watch a stupid comedy, and I
Ace
think of like
Ventura?
all the Adam Sandler movies. I still love Happy Gilmore because it's
Oh,
just such
yeah.
a stupid premise, like
Yep.
but it's fun and it's just dumb, and they have cameo appearances, and he's fighting Bob Barker, and like it's silly. And that's what was fun about it. And it's like we're not allowed to be silly anymore or something. Like, I don't get it.
Okay, not allowed. I just think it doesn't pull as much money as the Marvel movies, and so they've abandoned doing that
Right.
because it's about the box office. And
Every
if it
movie
doesn't
has to be-
satisfy that.
Well, so because they spend so much money making these movies, and what's funny is
I can tie this into Linux.
we-
Just wait.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for that. I was trying to
It's
see the
coming.
link.
well, when you spend $100 million on a movie, you actually have to make like $300 million to just break even because of all the marketing costs
Yeah.
and all the rest of it. So unless you're making $400 or $500 million off of that 100, you're not really making a profit. And they keep doing this where they make, every successive movie is more and more and more expensive, and it's difficult to get your return off of that. Whereas if you make a $10 million comedy or a $20 million comedy, it's much more likely you're going to make $50 million or, whatever you need to make off of that. But they don't want to go for the small projects. They want to go for, swinging for the fences, which I don't know.
I mean, sometimes they hit, and I think that's
Sometimes.
that's worth it to them, I guess, because it all evens
guess.
out in the end or something.
I don't know how we're not bored of comic book movies by now.
Oh, come on. I am
Oh,
bored
we
of
are.
comic book
We
movies.
clearly are.
How?
That,
I
have
absolutely
you
hate Marvel.
Yeah, I can't. I couldn't. I've actually cancelled my Disney Plus subscription. I've purposefully not gone to watch Miss Marvel or whatever it's called. Not Miss Marvel. The Marvels.
The Marvels.
Yeah, because it complete and utter superhero
torture.
fatigue. I'm just. It's
Yeah.
just like it's turned into work. It's like, oh, I have to watch this, and then I have to watch that, and then I have to do this, and then I have to. It's like I can't be bothered anymore. I just go back to
Right,
watching.
you have to
reruns
keep
that-
up. Because
Yeah,
if you
I
try
just-
to watch a movie without having seen the previous 5, you're not going to get what's going on.
And you got to follow all of the little storylines too, because
Yeah,
they all
yeah, yeah.
kind of hook together.
And you see, this was the beauty as in the early days of the MCU. In that, say when you watch the original Avengers, yes, if you'd seen the previous films, you got something out of it. But if you hadn't watched the previous films, you still enjoyed it. It still worked as a standalone movie. But now everything depends on something else. It depends that you already know this or you already know
Dependency hell. This is how
I'm
we
just-
tie it into Linux right here. This is like Marvel now is like is like Red Hat back in the day, where you had these RPMs where you tried to install one, but you couldn't because there was this dependency. So now Marvel's like that. You got to go watch the previous movie before you can watch this one. It's Marvel dependency hell.
I know, by the way, the previous
Title.
movie was terrible, so you're going to hate sitting through it, but you need to do it just to get that one, for that 5-minute scene
Yeah.
that sort of ties the piece together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
The
just
rug.
I'm tired of the formula of the action happens, snarky comment. Action happens, snarky comment. Action, and it's so stupid. It's over, and I'm like, and I sit there going, am I the only one who like sees this as being so flimsy? Yeah, it's flashy
even my
and big
kids, even my kids are bored of it now.
and ugh. Anyway,
I
so-
think that's it, right? It's flashing lights. That's the
Right.
that's the premise of the movies. I think deep down, it is just fancy explosions. Easily identifiable characters, whether or not you've seen the previous movies, and a bunch of action. That's
I still blame Michael Bay and
Well, I mean,
Transformers.
Michael Bay for a lot of
Transformers,
things.
yeah.
Yep.
He destroyed Transformers.
That was the sort of
Yeah, he
Absolutely
literally
did.
did. They exploded in the movie. I saw them destroy the Transformers. It's a very true statement.
That's a statement true on many levels.
I don't want to say much because my wife loves those movies and
Really?
Transformers.
She
And-
doesn't listen to the show, Bill.
And
You can say whatever you want.
she's over there doing laundry.
she likes Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, okay, so give her 5 minutes and then
Or
you talk
Mark
the
Wahlberg.
trash.
Yeah, I think by the time Wahlberg came along, there you couldn't make it much worse. So
Anything with Wahlberg, I'm sorry.
I like Mark Wahlberg.
I do too
Oh, no,
when
no,
he's in the
he's
right
good.
films, but he takes terrible films all the time.
Yeah.
he
Him
needs
and
the
Will
work.
Ferrell in that cop movie, hilarious.
Yeah, I
But
think
then,
they
like-
could have. They just could have done with a lot less of the snarky crap from the humans, and
That's
then
it.
all the.
It's the smartassery, like
Yeah.
we have to throw in the, you can't just have a serious dialogue. That's just it. Like anytime there's going to be a serious exchange of any kind of emotional level or like deep down, meaningful interaction, nope. You have to lighten the
Well,
mood with a snarky comment.
They're trying to make the movie smart by being snarky, and I think a lot of people see that.
That didn't work
where it's
out too
like,
good.
Oh, that was a very clever thing to say. This movie is smart, and then you can smash that in with a bunch of explosions and be like, it's a good smart movie. Exactly.
Speaking of things that really annoyed me this week, has anybody else seen this whole Apple RCS stuff going around?
I saw
Right,
the
yeah.
Nothing phone where they're talking about hacking
Yeah.
into the
Yeah,
blue
well,
bubbles.
so
That was
that was the first one, and then the second one was Apple saying that they will integrate RCS into their SMS and have it as alongside iMessage.
This
And
is my favorite thing in the entire world, because coming up to this, you have to remember that Google has been begging Apple to
Yeah.
open up the blue bubbles for years. And then when asking nicely didn't go their way, they tried to force them through the courts. And that hasn't happened yet at all. So Google is stomping their feet. Apple, please. Apple, please. And
Well,
now
even
better,
we're
their
starting to get a
marketing
little bit of
campaigns-
traction.
Yeah,
hold
well,
on,
they're
hold on.
marketing directly to people where they're saying, "Oh, well, Apple just their walled garden approach,
Yeah.
and like all they need to do is adopt this
Yeah.
open RCS standard."
Okay.
They don't want to
okay.
share with you. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Yes. Right.
So the thing is that I find it very suspect that Apple made this announcement the day that the depositions were going into the EU in the trial about what are gatekeeper services, and iMessage is a gatekeeper, you know. But now Apple can say, no, we support RCS, so therefore, we shouldn't be subject to the Digital Markets
It's
Act.
gonna it's gonna be the same thing that browsers are doing. They're gonna have like that header at the beginning of every packet, and it's gonna still allow Apple to color Android stuff green. That's
Yeah.
why Nothing is doing the Nothing Company.
Yeah.
Because that sounds
Yeah,
weird otherwise. That's why they're doing what they say they're doing, which is hacking into the blue bubbles. And Android people will have blue bubbles, and don't worry. And it's like, but what a weird social issue that we have, that it's so important to have blue bubbles, right?
I mean, this is entirely a North American issue. For us, for the rest of us in the world,
Use
we all
WhatsApp.
just use WhatsApp. Yeah, we just
Yeah.
all use WhatsApp. But what's annoying? What annoyed me about it was when I was listening to some commentators on The Verge talking about this, and kind of saying Apple talks a big game about privacy and security, and yet was happy to keep people on SMS, an unsecure, unencrypted platform.
Well, it's not.
Because general SMS, I'm not talking about iMessage. General SMS is unencrypted, stays on carriers servers and things like that, right? So your information's all out for everyone to see, and when pushed, well, why don't you adopt this newer standard which is encrypted and things like that? Oh, just go buy your mum an iPhone, was
Yes.
the famous Tim Cook
But
answer.
that's the entire point of that whole entire thing. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that they need to keep iMessage closed off. But their argument wasn't that we care about everybody's privacy. They care about people on iPhones' privacy. They care about Apple privacy.
Their
And so
customers,
if you're
yeah.
using Apple hardware with people that also have Apple hardware, you have the pinnacle of security as far as the corporate goes. And
that's not necessarily
they're
true,
not
though, is it?
wrong, though.
No, but that's
it-
not necessarily true, though. Is it because if you are you might have to correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're an Apple user, so you're on your iPhone, you're on iMessage, you're texting a Android user, because
But you've broken
they're-
it already.
Well, so wait a minute. It's the fact that someone texts someone else who doesn't happen to use the platform, right? That makes your messages insecure. How is that not shitty? How is
It
that
is.
not just?
I didn't say it wasn't. What I'm
Yeah,
saying is that
and
Apple
how is
to
that
Apple.
how is that security for you? How is that secure for you though?
But that's not what they said, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, and they are saying, Apple to Apple is secure. Apple to anything else, man, that's not our business. They need to be on an Apple device, and you'll have security. But when
But then there's an open standard that's out there that would fix it.
right, but why
which
would
is-
Apple get rid of its moneymaker? Why would it
No,
do that?
no, but
There
it's
is
not
a-
doing that. But it's not even. It doesn't even need to do that. To be honest, all it needs to do, it has its own iMessage thing, which is separate, and then says, okay, but if if the person that you're sending it to isn't on iMessage, at least it goes through RCS instead.
Right, but what I'm getting at is that this will lose Apple money. I'm not saying that
I
we
don't
shouldn't
think it will.
force it. Will because we have this entire thing in America. You can see where there have been survey after survey after survey after survey that Android usage is going down in the U.S. and Apple usage is going up, and one of the big reasons for that is blue bubbles. And this is what I was talking about at the very beginning of this conversation, that it's a weird social issue that is getting Apple market share. And by bringing in more blue bubbles that aren't on Apple hardware, they're going to be affecting their bottom line.
But I
you
think
see,
that's true for younger people. I don't think older
It
people
is.
care
That it,
about
you're
blue.
right, Eric. Yeah, those surveys were for younger people. Yes.
Right.
I mean, even if they do this, which is from what I understand, it's still not going to solve it's still not going to make an RCS chat a blue bubble. It's just that it'll still be a green bubble. It's just
Right.
that it
No,
will
but
be
it-
secure.
And I
But you
mentioned
know
that
what
too.
it does do? It makes it less annoying to chat with an iPhone user when you're on the Android. So for like right now, if they like your message, you get a separate SMS message that says somebody liked your message. And you're like,
Yeah.
what the hell is that? Like, so RCS does enable certain things like, reactions, There's some other
Read
specific
receipts,
things.
full resolution video and
Yeah, the video thing was
photos.
That's
really annoying.
super annoying. That is so annoying. Because most of my family uses iPhones. My direct family, my immediate family, we all use Android and always have. So we just prefer that. But all of my extended family uses iPhones, and they'll send this video, and it's like, "Oh, check this out," and it is literally unwatchable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so low quality that
it's
you
like
can't
4
even
pixels.
see it.
Yeah, because it has to go down
just-
to MMS quality. I mean, as I said, for the rest of the world, this just isn't an issue because we're just all using WhatsApp. So it's
Except
not.
that WhatsApp isn't a panacea. It doesn't.
No, it's not. It's not. But I definitely isn't. But it's cross-platform, and you have it works equally as well, regardless of platform.
It's nice that it's not tied to the fact that you have to have like a SIM card and service on a mobile provider to be able to do. I mean, SMS. Yes, there are certain apps you can use and stuff like that. Google Voice and other voice over IP providers and stuff like that. But ultimately, SMS is tied to a phone number, whether it's a virtual one or a something tied to a service, and that's probably the biggest pain in the butt out of all of it in terms of usability. WhatsApp is just an app. You just install it, and it doesn't matter if it's on a computer, or a phone, or it's just there. You can use it no matter what. Does it have end-to-end encryption enabled by default,
Yeah.
or do you
Yeah, it
have
does.
to enable it?
No, it does have end-to-end encryption by
Using the
default.
Signal protocol, by the way.
Okay. Okay, well then I give them enough credit that they aren't eavesdropping on conversations. They still know who you're talking to, which I guess is enough information for them, how frequently you talk to them.
Yeah.
So it's still a Facebook product, which
yeah.
I don't love.
Yeah, the protocol and the protocol should be enough that you can say, all right, maybe it's a Facebook product, but they did good with the choice of protocol. There is no
Yeah.
going back, not with
Yeah.
Signal's protocol. At least not that we have found out. There's no way to go back on that encryption.
So for a long time, SMS cost money. Like it was part of your plan. You had so many
this is why Apple won.
messages.
What you're saying?
And once they just became unlimited, like I don't know of any plan. I mean, maybe there's still some really budget plans that have like a certain number that you get.
Not for SMS that I know of.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's pretty much just wide open. You just get unlimited. So now that it's unlimited, the likelihood that we change is pretty low.
Well,
I mean,
that
at
was
this point,
and that happened. Those plans happened in the late '90s, early 2000s, which is about the time that the iPhones came out and iMessage started to become a thing, and that's why they won, because we had unlimited messaging, which meant that everybody was already tied in the U.S. already tied
Yeah.
into the SMS ecosystem, so we already we're already using that, and then when iMessage came out and then added features to SMS by doing absolutely nothing else. You didn't have to change apps. You didn't have to turn on any settings.
Yeah.
iMessage came out and just made SMS better. But that's when the whole blue-green bubble thing started to happen. So,
Yeah.
but that's why they won, because SMS won. And
yeah.
they just took advantage
Well,
of
and
that.
funny enough, SMS was popular because the carriers made it so. They pushed
Right.
it because they made so much money off of it for such a long time.
You know,
And then
you
they
still
just-
have people to this day that have little to no data associated
Yeah.
with their mobile plan, and so
Right.
it's always going to be SMS for people like that. I've always been interested in how, yeah, you're right, SMS kind of became the de facto standard here in the States, just because I think of how most of our plans came with the unlimited, or
Right.
they evolved into the unlimited messaging. But something like WhatsApp would use data.
But
to-
and that was for the same reason, just the opposite way. So in Europe, you didn't have these unlimited SMS carrier plans, or at least they weren't very popular. And when the apps like WhatsApp and different communication apps like that started springing up, it was before unlimited SMS was widespread over there. So
Well, is there anything else? I mean, as far as I know, most people in the world, the rest of the
WhatsApp.
world, are using WhatsApp.
yeah,
Yeah.
and for that
Facebook
reason,
WeChat
Messenger.
in China.
Yeah, there's WeChat in China, Line, I think, in Japan.
Yeah.
But yeah, WhatsApp pretty much. I mean, whenever I speak to any of my relatives whether they're in the Gulf or in India, it's all WhatsApp.
Now,
In fact,
have they
in fact,
incorporated-
everything works on. In fact, everything works on WhatsApp. I mean,
Yeah.
there it's become that kind of everything app type of thing.
Well, I
where
was
you
just
can
going to
make
ask, is it
payments
like
and-
WeChat where there's payments and
So
sort
in
of all
India,
that kind of
yes. In India, yes.
Elon's trying. Hang on, guys. X will
Oh.
get there.
Yeah, well,
If they
yeah.
do, I'll never know.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, me neither.
forget X. But
You
yeah,
need a credit card to log into X. Delete.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in India, WhatsApp is kind of going that way. But I mean, even if you take that aspect out of it, I'm just saying that the kind of the discourse, as it were, everything kind of happens on WhatsApp. So I remember when I was in Saudi, and their plans have a specific WhatsApp thing to it. Because it's used so
Oh.
much that how much your
It's
WhatsApp use.
independent.
Yeah. So like you're saying about
Oh.
number of SMSs or number of this, because what they're
Yeah.
realizing is then especially people aren't then doing phone calls through their normal phone, And so I remember seeing loads of people doing voice notes and then waiting for the reply voice note, and then a reply again voice note, and then they're having a full conversation through voice notes. So that's what I mean by it's just completely ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Everything is your default. And to now, some relatives I know who recently came to this country, they never, even though they have local phones and phone numbers and unlimited plans, they never ring me from their phone. They're always ringing from WhatsApp, because they're just so used to doing that. My wife has noticed that in our area, our data signal is better than our phone signal, and so she rings with WhatsApp, which is kind of like, so do you see what I mean? It's like, so iMessage for us is just like not relevant, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said,
Well, so even though people have iPhones in the UK and a lot of people have them, they're still using WhatsApp instead
Yeah.
of iMessage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the EU would have regulated this a long time ago had iMessage been a bigger deal in Europe.
True.
But because it's not, we're having to depend on our own government to push things along, and that's not going so great right now. So we got a
Well, I
little
can't
ways to go.
believe-
We'll figure it out.
I'm surprised that Apple actually is doing this. I honestly thought they were just always going to say, you know what,
Yeah, but I
this
feel
is a
like they see
competitive
the writing on the
feature.
wall.
No,
This is
they-
not.
yeah,
They're
this
not
is
doing
what-
it out of the goodness of their hearts. Apple and companies like it don't do anything unless they are forced to. Just like the right to repair thing. Apple wasn't going to let you take a battery out of their phone, please.
Right.
But the law started getting pushed, and they saw the writing on the wall, and they were like, hey, look at this. We'll throw you a bone here.
So
And-
what I've noticed in life in general, right, and technology definitely, and big companies even more, is if you see the writing on the wall, if you see the winds blowing up a certain way, the best thing to do is to get out ahead of it.
Yeah.
And so before you're forced to do something you're not happy to do something which you're still not happy to do, but is tolerable for you, right?
And
so
Well,
you
I
get
don't
to
think
do
this
an
is gonna-
entire ad campaign on it.
Yeah,
you
no,
can be.
so-
We're the first.
Right.
Yeah, no, so the
Right.
example I remember, I mean, is not a technical example. It's a medical example from hospital where so many of us were having to stay in overnight because of long cases and this, that, and the other. That we just said that look, before they make us do it, what we're going to say is that we will do it for X amount of money.
Yeah.
You
exactly.
know, and get ahead of it and say, okay, fine. Before the hospital make it mandatory on us for having to stay
Control
at
the narrative.
Exactly,
That way
exactly.
you can form the end result. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and so
I-
that's exactly, and that's like what Apple's done. Because what Apple has done is this, because it all depends on how you define this word interoperability. What this decision by Apple is not is we are now going over to RCS and Google Messages and opening up iMessage. That is not what it is. What it is when you instead of sending an SMS now, we will send you an RCS message instead. You can send an RCS message instead, and then they can say, well, iMessage is still the better thing, right? And it's still walled off, and it's still this, that, and the other. But we've
And it's
now
still a
done
blue
this,
bubble.
yeah, and it's still a blue bubble. But now we've got this, and now therefore you can't come and beat us with a stick saying that we're not interoperable because we've got a universal standard on there.
Yeah. And I think
Well,
that's
but-
too technical. I think once you hit, it fails down to RCS, otherwise iMessage, that's too technical for our government, at least in the U.S., to legislate. I think the EU would make it messy, but I think we would get it fully wrong. So I think it'll be so close that they'll just be like, it's good enough. Okay, fine, leave it alone. And that's exactly how it is. It's getting up in front of it. That way you can control how it ends. That's exactly.
And
what
the
Apple's
reality
doing.
is, if you read the announcement, this isn't changing anything. They're not getting rid of green bubbles. They're not. It is just going to allow for interoperability, just like you said, how Apple added features on top of the existing SMS protocol. That's all this really does. It just adds some other capabilities, but it doesn't actually change the blue bubble, green bubble
No.
debate.
And
Yeah,
and
and,
it's
and
gonna.
this is what annoys me about Apple, because I know that all big tech and all big companies are always going to do what's good for their bottom line and all this kind of stuff. But it's the hypocrisy around it that gets me, really. The kind of, we're just doing this to be secure. No, you're not.
Oh,
You're
you
doing it
mean
to make
the
money. Be honest. So just say you're making money. Just say you're making money. That's
the
fine.
don't
I'm
be
all right with that.
evil hypocrisy from Google. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice
Yeah,
Android there. Nice
yeah.
Android you got there.
Yeah. No, I mean, as I said, it's not just Apple, but
Yeah.
it's what puts me off all of these big tech companies, because they're just so nauseatingly hypocritical when it comes to stuff like this. Like, just say the truth. Just say that we want to make money. We want to rinse you as much as we want. Fine. That's what we expect. And if the product's free, I know I'm the data. I'm the product, and that my data is this. That's fine. Just
Right,
be honest
but-
about it.
That's the exact reason that I'm trying to get away from Google as much as possible, because there's so much free stuff in Google that really is useful, but every single step of the way, they're stripping away your privacy and stripping away what I think the internet always was in the first place, man.
So
And
I mean
I
that's an
argue-
that's an interesting thing, actually. Oh, sorry, Eric, I'll let you carry on. But I was just going to say, I was going to ask you, once Eric's done, tell me what have you replaced your Google services with? I'll be interested to know.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
So all I was going to say is I think that there's a myth about Google providing all of this functionality and services. Yes, they have. Android has been a success for them. So the sort of the services that are ancillary to that, and I think Google Photos is a big part of that, where you're backing everything up. The Android experience has gotten much better, but in terms of like their other apps, like Meet is awful. Excuse me, Hangouts was a success, I think, and they got rid of it. That was something that was sort of beloved to a lot of people, me included. My entire family used it, and it was very useful. No, we can't support that. So I feel like a lot of their services outside of Gmail and the basic sort of core stuff, and their Office is decent, but it's all as barely minimal as it needs to be. Like there's no real robust features, and that's why when people look at the comparison between something like a Google product and an Apple product, Apple really adds that extra set of features. They make it look better, they make it easier to use, and I think that's a big part of why they've been successful.
Yep.
And
There weren't 5 different messages apps on the Apple phone,
right.
and half
Exactly.
of them didn't die. But Google does this. This is exactly what Google does. They just killed news, didn't they? Like in the past couple of days.
I got the email saying that Google News was dead. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what didn't die? Apple News. And it's been the same just about from the very beginning. And they don't kill things. So when you start
Right.
depending on something, you don't pick up your phone one day and the app is uninstalled. Or when you click on it, it's like, this has moved to whatever. And
They also tend to not make huge changes between releases, which alienate people because you're immediately like, what happened to that feature?
Yeah.
Oh, well, they don't even, Google doesn't even announce what they changed. Like you just randomly open
It's on the dev
Gmail one
blog.
day. Well, yeah, right, because anyone's ever going to look at that. But I mean, you just randomly open Gmail one day, the Android client, and all of a sudden, like something's radically different, and you're like, what is going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
They do it all the time, and it's very frustrating. And you're right. Like on an Apple device, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Outside of the
Simple as
privacy
that.
stuff, that was another big reason why I had to leave. I had to stop because I would start depending on something, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, that Duo thing that you've been using, which is basically iMessage and FaceTime. Nah, we killed it.
Yep.
Man,
What was
so
the
you
alternative
had it.
to Gmail for a while?
Inbox.
Oh, mail. Yeah,
Inbox.
Inbox. That's right.
That was-
Inbox was
I loved it.
fantastic. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And they killed it.
Got to
They
kill
just
it,
killed it.
So-
That
Well,
was the
Google
beginning
News
of
is
the
still working, unless this is just.
but it won't for long.
Right. They
I
announced
wa-
its death So it's going to be on that website that the guy keeps together of all the things that Google has killed. It's going to be there. If it's not already there, it's going to be there soon.
I've just gotten to the point
Google
where I
Podcasts.
struggle to care. Google Podcasts
Podcast is
dead.
another one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, podcast is dead. Yeah.
Gone because they want
Yeah.
you to use music, which is
Everybody
the
was like,
YouTube
"Oh,
subscription
no."
thing. Yeah,
terrible.
they want you to pay the $18 a month for the YouTube thing so that you can have podcasts that are free
Yep.
that you can get anywhere for free.
Yep.
Really? It's so they can advertise
Anyway.
to you, man.
Yeah, I tell you what. I mean, I do like the Pixel. I have to say, in terms of Android, it is the best Android experience I've had, even though it is so heavily reliant on Google. But every time I have to make a purchasing decision, I start leaning closer and closer to Apple, just simply because, it's like if I just gave into it and I just had all the products.
Part of the Borg, man.
I know that my life would just be easier, right?
It
I
would
just
be.
know that I wouldn't have to deal with all of the mess that I deal with now.
Yeah.
But I just have to accept it, right?
That's the
So
biggest
I mean,
thing, man.
I have tried to be, with my iOS experiment over the last 18 months, right? I have tried against myself to become an Apple guy, and I just can't. It's just
No, well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Stop thinking of it that way. Don't become an Apple guy. You don't have to do that. Just use the apps like you've always used them. You don't
And pay
have
the
to
money.
become an Android or an Apple guy. Yes, pay money like we should be doing in Linux as well.
Right.
We should be paying developers for the work that they put into this is their blood, sweat, tears, and knowledge into an app.
But here's
And
a crazy
$1.99
thing.
doesn't hurt me that bad.
Right. When you pay that money, first of all, you usually get a better product.
Yup.
It's true. You get support. You also are funding a developer that now will have some longevity, so that thing that you're using will probably be around for a little while. I'm starting to not starting, but it's not something that's new, but I am getting tired of having an open source project that I rely on for something that just dies. And whether it's funding or lack of interest or, life change or whatever it is that pulls the developers away from that project, it just dies.
Here's
then
what
all of a
happens.
sudden,
Here's what happens is a developer will start working on a project that they like, that they love, that they have this really good idea for, and they'll start putting it together. And so they have all this passion. They don't need money for that right now. They have all this passion and they're dumping all of that into this project. And then it gets a little popular. People start pull requests and all this kind of stuff, adding in feature requests and things like that. And so now the project is deviating a little bit from what the original developer wanted. And so now they're just having to work on it. Now it's becoming a little bit of work. So the passion is falling, but what you do to continue development on that software is you supplement the loss of passion with an increase in money. And that will stave off and add longevity to the application so that it doesn't die. And if we could figure that out in open source, if we could really start to supplement with the cache, then I think we would start to see better products and we would see longer living applications as well.
Well, and larger things like, Wayland is a good example. Why has it taken so long for Wayland to get to this point? It's because there's no real structure around it. It's a bunch of loosely organized volunteers with a few paid developers. There are definitely some companies that will support it financially, but ultimately a lot of these things, and we're talking like foundational things, not just Wayland, but we talk about this over and over where there's this one open source project that is like underpinning all of these major, systems that exist in the world, and it's basically a guy, and like a
SSL,
guy
man.
working on it. Yeah. Yeah, and
What
it's
was
like
it, 10 years ago? Less than 10 years ago, SSL, where it underpinned everything, every bit of security on the entire internet. But it was maintained by one guy, and he wasn't getting paid by anybody. Not banks, not Target, not any store or any bank that
all this commerce that's happening because of what he did. Yep.
Because of him, no one's paying him. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, we'll pay you $80,000 a year. This guy's protecting all of the internet, and you're going to pay him $80,000. Really? The guy should be a billionaire.
Yep. Yeah, honestly, for something like that enables... Yeah, I just feel like, and I know there's no practical way to do this, but it's almost like the license should have language to the effect that if you are making money off of this software, if it is underpinning a system that either is customer facing, that someone is paying you for, or is supporting your business operations, that there has to be some way for a small percentage of what you're making, and it's not something that's going to hurt you. Not a tax, not, we're talking
it will be
something...
a tax, and it'll be framed that way if the language ever changes.
I know, and that's the way it'll be, torches and pitchforks, I know. But at the end of the day, if it was like that, if a very small percentage of the overall money that's being made off of this went back into the development of it, think of how strong those projects would be. Because you're right, it becomes real work. It becomes like all the drudgery that you don't want to do. The thing that you were interested in doing now is being drowned out by all of the, well, this doesn't work here and that. And, it's like, how long can you deal with that before you just like, I don't want to, I'm done.
Well,
you can't make me do it.
The day that project is announced that it's dead, that's how long. And it's different for every project. And it's sad to see them go.
So you were mentioning about that you're getting rid of Google. What services are you using to replace Google in your
Don't
life?
say Nextcloud.
So Nextcloud, no. Well, actually, I so sort of, yes, Nextcloud. I don't use a whole lot of cloud storage in the first place. So the big one, I suppose, from Google is email, right? And so I don't roll my own, but I pay for hosting on email. So I have my own domain. I have my own account. And it's pretty trivial to add new accounts if I wanted them. I think it's like $1 a piece a month or something like that. So it's not particularly expensive. It's not Proton Mail expensive, but I could go that way if I wanted to as well. If I was looking for absolute security, I suppose that may be where I go. And right now's a good time, right? Black Friday sales on Proton Mail. You get your first year for super cheap. But I don't think you can just keep re-upping at the discounted rate, because if you could, that might be...
So we just had the conversation about paying for things, and
right.
if
privacy paying for my
is
email.
important to you, like
paying for my email, and that's perfectly fine, because it's not like I have a huge amount of email that goes in and out, and I still have a Gmail account. You can't really get away from Google fully because I have a YouTube account. So, but it's a separate account. It's an account that gets no email. It sends no email. And all it does is it manages the YouTube. But there is no YouTube competitor. This is one thing that Google has done mostly right up until recently, YouTube. But they've captured the market, so now they can do whatever they want. They can add, 3 times as many ads as the length of the video. And, people can complain, and some people will drop their subscription maybe, or try to go to something else, but there's just no real competitor to YouTube.
Exactly. Where are you going to go? FreeTube,
exactly.
PeerTube,
Odyssey.
Odyssey, right? That was going to be the big one.
Man, those comment sections are trash.
Oh my goodness, and the quality and subject matter that it attracts are basically all the people who can't be on YouTube.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that explains why the comment sections are trash.
Yeah. Right.
Because those commenters aren't allowed on YouTube either.
Right. Exactly. So and okay, you know what? Fine. In the interest of open and fairness, like if the lunatics want to have a place to be, where they're allowed to be,
There's
fine.
normal people there too, because
it's hard.
There are a lot of people on Odyssey that really just don't like the way that YouTube is. But, you're sharing a room with the lunatics. And
I tried really hard, but there's so much background noise. And honestly, also, whenever you tell someone, well, my videos aren't on YouTube, well, that's already weird to them. But secondly, go to this place, and then the first page that loads has all of the conspiracy theory things, or all of the flat earth things, and it's like, you're immediately associating yourself with that entire group of people,
Yeah.
whether you want to or not.
Exactly. So is there a Odyssey app like in just like
Yeah,
if I
there is,
go to
I
the
think.
App Store and I type in Odyssey and the app is called Odyssey?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically just not Electron, but I think it's basically just it's consuming the web services. There's very
Oh,
little.
okay. Okay.
It's essentially exactly the same as the website.
I see. Okay. Well, I mean, hey, as long as you can go get
So
an app, like it makes sense, right? Because nobody wants complexity. So when I tell someone, the videos on YouTube, they know that they can go to YouTube.com or they can use the YouTube app. That's it, right? The naming is exactly the same. But when you do that
right.
with Mastodon, it's really hard. Well, early on, it was really hard because there weren't a lot of apps and there was no official Mastodon app, and it was all just like, well, you could do it on the desktop, and it's like, but I'm on my phone, so yeah. But now that has kind of hit a fever pitch as well, where Mastodon has an official Mastodon app, and there's all the cool third-party apps that are pretty interesting as well. So that's good. I appreciate that.
The way those services can work is if you are embedding them elsewhere, so that if the user never has to go to the service itself and you're just consuming the content from your website or, Facebook or wherever you're putting that video, if they don't have to go to the service, then I think that kind of works out okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, like, and but I personally I've been on Gmail. I'm not kidding you, from the time it started. So what's
I
that been?
have I have the
20?
emails from 2013 where I was inviting people to Gmail, where it was still a closed. Yeah, for sure.
And you remember when you started off, it would be like telling you how much space you had, and then it would be increasing by the
Yeah.
second. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what?
So
what?
I mean,
Go ahead.
I just want to. I really am at the point now where I'm so indoctrinated to the way that Gmail handles email, like with the labels and the rules and like all the things that make it really easy to use for me. I still have this like feeling every time I use it. I'm just like, I know I shouldn't be using this, but what else can I do? I've become so used to it. Like, what can I do
There's.
to get away from it?
I'll give you one step. I'll give you one of the first steps you can do to start unplugging from Gmail, and that's use a third-party email app, namely Thunderbird.
Thunderbird.
Use Thunderbird and do Gmail that way. One of the cool things that you get with that is Gmail's still going to be, Google is still going to be checking every email on the way in and then creating a profile based off of that, right? But what you can do is start knocking off a lot of the third-party stuff that comes in with those emails, with those tracking pixels, and when you click on a link, it's directly tied to the email that clicked on that link and all that stuff. Thunderbird blocks that by default. So it's just a nice starting point, and unless you set them up yourselves, you don't get that promotions and social labels stuff. It just all hits you in the face, and you realize just how much trash is in your email. And hopefully
See, I have all
that
that off
spurs
anyway.
you. Yeah, hopefully it spurs you to unsubscribe to 98% of the stuff that's coming into your inbox, because we don't need 48,000 emails and then have to spend the $1.99 to get the extended mailbox on Google. You don't need that much. You really don't. But it kind of seems like you do when you sign up for every newsletter that exists. So unsubscribe from all that stuff. I promise. You go to the website, they have the same sale. It's there, I promise. It's on the front page, and it's like marqueing across.
I guess the UI is the biggest, the trickiest part for me, because I have used Gmail not only with Thunderbird, like using GNOME, how it's sort of integrated, and if you put in your Google stuff, you get your calendar in the GNOME calendar, and you get whatever email client is automatically configured and all of that stuff. So I've used Gmail in various different desktop clients, and it's just not the same. And I need to, that's really what needs to change for me, is not so much the content of the email, because I already turn off all of the grouping and all that stuff. I don't like any of that. Even though I liked Inbox as much as I did, I don't like that the way they do it in Gmail. I don't want to be obfuscated. I don't want anything to be hidden from me. I want to be able to see it myself and deal with it. So it's not so much that, it's just the way the UI is. I'm just so used to Gmail that when I use something like Thunderbird, even though it's good and it's getting better, I use Thunderbird for all of my ancillary accounts, all the non Gmail accounts, and I'm perfectly fine with it. But
So
there's
what is it specifically? I'm curious. Like what is it that is in gmail.com? What feature, what look and feel?
So the way that the labels are handled in Gmail versus the way they're handled in Thunderbird,
Okay.
the way that the conversations can have multiple labels, that's very useful to me, and it always has been. And the
Okay.
fact that you're limited to a single folder in a traditional, so if any client would ever handle folders as labels the way that Gmail does, that would probably get me pretty far.
Yeah. Okay. So closer
Because
to like
I
a
do things
hashtag or
like,
something.
well, yeah. So I mean, I'll have, as a client email comes in for the business side of things, it'll automatically be tagged with that label for the client. But then also, if I snooze it or if I put it in, I have I use the getting
Snoozing is
things
useful,
done.
yeah.
Yeah, snoozing. I use the getting things done model where there's an action, review, and waiting
Oh, smart. Yeah.
bucket. And so if I put it into action, now it's tagged for the client and tagged for action. So I know sort of how to handle it and triage it. And so I just have a whole system that I've been using for,
I
forever with Gmail that just doesn't, like, it's not just mail. It's more around sort of the workflow.
I will keep an eye out for, because Thunderbird supports extensions, a lot of the same extensions that Firefox supports. So there may be something written for Thunderbird that does bring in the functionality, but I've not looked into any of the extensions before, so I wouldn't even know where to point you if there was something
I
like
used
that
to
were
use
to exist.
I used to use Thunderbird for my work email a couple of years ago. I found it really good then, but now now that my work email has migrated to Exchange, I've never really managed to get a good Exchange compatible client on Linux. Thunderbird apparently has an extension. Uh, um, Evolution apparently has an extension. I got the Evolution one to work, and then it stopped working, and now I can't get it to start up again. So I've just given up actually on that one, and I've just decided to just use the web app because it is just work stuff. It's not
Yeah.
not the
That's
most
how I do it for work too. I just use web Gmail because I'm not gonna. But
Yeah.
so on the since we're running out of time, what else with Google? Because I don't think I use much anything else of Google outside of
I use their
Gmail, and I do that
apps
as
a lot.
little
Okay.
I
as
use
possible.
Drive. I use Docs.
Yeah, I don't
use
use Drive
Sheets.
anymore.
I use all that stuff, and not as it isn't
What about
even necessarily.
photos
Yeah,
backup?
photos. It's not even necessarily because it's collaborative. I use it because I just like how I like it as a word processor. It's bare bones, very minimal, but still has a lot of keyboard shortcuts, so it's very
Yeah.
quick and it's focused. It's a very focused experience using their Office tools versus Microsoft. Like, don't I just want to create a file? Don't make me go through all these stupid steps to get to. You know what I mean? Like, just let me create a file, and that's.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think Word is trying to be too helpful in a lot of ways, and I think the word web is not anywhere as good. Personally, I think it's clunky and kind of bloated. And anyway, yeah, I need to just, and it's kind of like I said with the Apple stuff. I just need to realize that yes, Gmail has given me all of these different ways of doing things, but the cost of that is them having access to all of the information that comes through.
Yeah.
Medical stuff, banking stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
they know so much about me, and have for such a long time. And I have
Yeah,
this
we
apathy
thought
where it's
cookies
like,
were bad, but you're
I
using
know.
the mail.
Oh, they have. I'm using their phone. I mean, they know everything about me, like 24 hours a day. So I just want to see like how much of that can I remove from my life. And
I've said years ago, I'd be slightly more okay with them stealing my entire identity if they just split the revenue with me.
right.
Just
There
split it.
there are apps that with which you can do that actually. Get some of the money that your data is accruing. Oh, there was what was the app called? Get Your Slice.
Google ain't sharing it with you. This is some other way to sell your data.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I'm not trying to sell
That's
my
a-
data. It's just that
Yeah.
Google won't stop selling my data. Give me that money and I'll be slightly happier with it.
Yep. Okay, well, we're not going to solve that today, but I appreciate you. And I agree with you. Maybe there are some extensions or something that kind of gets me a little closer.
Yeah, I'll keep
in
an eye out
and
for you because I've been meaning to look into some extensions to make that experience a little bit better, and I'm waiting for Thunderbird for iPhone. Oh my God, that'll be the day.
I think it
can't
has.
wait.
Hasn't it come out? I thought I'm
You got
sure I remember
K9
some-
mail.
For Android, it's
Android,
come
yeah.
out. Yeah, and they've teamed up with they absorbed K9 Mail. They're gonna relaunch Thunderbird on the Android, and then some later date Apple will have a version.
Well, on that
Yeah.
note, we better wrap it up. Let us know what you think, dear listener. show@linuxotc.org. Hit us up on the Discord. I don't know what else. Mastodon. I don't know why I keep forgetting that. But
Yeah, how dare you?
Yeah, man.
yeah,
Favor.
Mastodon. That's
better
about
than-
it.
It's better than that Twitter Xy weirdo crap.
I don't even know if I've completely disconnected from Twitter or whatever it's mutated
better
into.
for
me
it.
too.
Yeah, you're
And-
better for it. Yeah.
And so if you've been trying to get a hold of us on that, I apologize. Go use a proper format like Mastodon. But yeah, email, let us know what you think. Comment directly on the website. We'd love to hear from you. Anyway, we'll be back in 2 weeks. And then until then, I've been Bill.
I've been Eric.
I'm evaluating my life choices. Magic.
And I'm still Leo.
Have a good one, folks.